Hi everyone, I'm Jack. Welcome to the official Isles Den YouTube channel. We're going to be doing a lot more Islanders postgame show and podcasting content for this upcoming season. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. You can also find my weekly podcast on Twitter at Isles House, co-hosted by myself at Isles Den, Ethan at EthanGSN, and Rocco at Pizza Sports Guy, all on Twitter. Thank you for joining me. Welcome in, everybody. We got a special Isles post game today. We're going to be recapping both the AHL Bridgeport Islanders and the New York Islanders in their games from last night and today. I got Kenny, I got Sam live from Total Mortgage Arena in Bridgeport, and we got Joey joining us somewhere on Long Island, I believe. But we're going to recap this one, talk a little bit Bridgeport, go through who impressed us today for the first half, and then we'll get into whatever the hell we watched last night. But guys, I mean, I don't watch many of these games, but today had some time. There's no football on, and I was like, let's tune in. And I picked a hell of a game to tune in for, didn't I? Yeah, 4-0 win, and Bridgeport. There's been a lot going on around the team recently. The potential rumored move to Hamilton, which nobody can really confirm. Nobody knows about that. But like my initial takeaway is I really don't know what sort of a positive effect it can really have or like negative, to be honest with you. Like I'm just more I find myself kind of like caught in the middle there. But one thing I will say is since I started the Isles Den account years ago, I've just connected with many people that are regulars at those games. And I feel for them because there was a time, whether it was realistic or not, that I felt I had to worry if the New York Islanders were going to move. So just want to know like your guys' thoughts, like how the building has it been filled up a little bit more? Are these people a little more grateful to be going to these games? If you guys could just share a few thoughts on it, then we can get to today's game.
Yeah, it's you're hearing things on the ice right now, but yeah, it's obviously a difficult situation, and it's tough to be here. And I know a lot of people were concerned, and it's a huge loss for the community because this team does so much. You look at Luke Rowe; that guy does everything. He's always out and about doing something for the community. I know the fans are obviously upset, and I think people are more upset because they don't have a definitive answer. Right? They're rumors. Nobody's really given a real answer yet, and yeah, it's going to be tough. Like I grew up, I know Sam as well, like we grew up coming to these games. So it's been an honor this season just to be in the press box, being able to cover the team that I watched growing up. And, it's so difficult. But, right now we're just holding out hope. We're going to continue to show up to the arena, continue to do what we need to do. And then when, the official word, if there is one, will hopefully come out relatively soon. So at least we could start planning for next season. When it comes to moving to Hamilton, I know that they put a ton of money into that new arena, so I know upgraded facilities is probably something that is in the pro column of moving, is these players are going to have a better place to play. And I know for a while here in Bridgeport, they weren't playing at Total Mortgage Arena every game, and they were playing every game, but not practicing here. They were practicing in Shelton or they were practicing in the Wonderland of Ice. I think that has changed recently. I think they do practice here all the time, but yeah, that's obviously something. You want the best facilities for your prospects, and you want a place for them to grow and all that. When it comes to kind of understanding, I'm certainly out of the loop because for most teams are now moving their affiliates closer, and the Islanders are looking to move them farther away. And if they were a team that had an issue earlier in the year with Callum Ritchie, who couldn't make that flight down to Carolina with the team, so this isn't new for them. This is something that isn't new for any team in the American Hockey League. It sucks, and I know Sam will have some things to say about this as well.
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, like Kenny said, growing up here in this arena, coming here with my parents, coming here with my friends, it's obviously it's not confirmed yet, but it's kind of sad just to think about the potential. Obviously, it's been a good year so far. I'm really impressed with how it's gone. Rocky Thompson has done a great job, and if this is indeed the final year, I think you got to give flowers to the entire team so far. It's been a great run so far.
I'll just add one more thing off of that. I've heard some people talk about the potential move to Hamilton, and it's a Canadian market. People are going to be more interested in the games. I really don't totally love that because I'm pulling from Hockey DB right now. They have good attendance metrics. Right now, Bridgeport averaging just over 4,300 fans a night. That's the most that they've had at games since the 14-15 season. So
Wow.
I think that Bridgeport hockey is as strong as it's ever been. So, I mean, it would be a real shame to move the team now.
I don't want to cut you off, Jack, but I will add this as well. Bridgeport just had their game against Providence, over 6,000 fans. That was one of the highest attendance games in almost 10 years.
Wow.
So fans are showing up, they're proud and they're happy. And it was a fantastic game here against Providence the other day. So yeah, the attendance this season has definitely been trending in the right direction.
Yeah, and to everybody listening for updates on anything Bridgeport, I don't know why I didn't say it in the opening. These boys all do the Isles at the Sound blog. You could find them on Twitter. You can find them in the links below. I attached all of their socials. But thank you guys for that rundown. Gives me a better feel, I guess, of what's going on over there in Bridgeport. But as we said, it's been an impressive season from last year, where it was quite a struggle. We don't need to dive into it, but this season, today's game brings them to 19, 19, 2-2. Is that the right record?
Sounds right.
What's
Sure
up with that
is.
two? What's up with that 2-2 though?
So the AHL breaks it down. You have your 3 dashes in the NHL, right? And it wins, losses, overtime, and shootout losses. The AHL just breaks that out into overtime losses and shootout losses. So it's 19 wins, 19 losses, 2 shootout losses, and 2 overtime losses. Not in
Got
that
it.
order.
And do those have like any tie-breaking sort of meanings, or is it just like a way of breaking down the record? Like, you know how in the NHL it's like regulation, overtime wins, and then like the I think shootout wins count the least, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually like a pretty long list before you get there. Obviously, like head to head and stuff like
Oh,
that.
okay.
Like first, but yes, it does have some impact on the playoff standings, but usually it doesn't come to that.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the head-to-head as a tiebreaker. But onto the game today. So I don't watch Bridgeport very often, but I was really impressed, really from the start. In the first period, I thought Matthew Maggio was absolutely humming, and that was before he ended up scoring a goal, making it 1-0. In the second period, Hunter Drew added one really nice play again from Maggio and George. It was off of a turnover. Beckman really took a puck and just went on the rush himself and wristed one right by the Thunderbirds goalie. That kind of felt like the dagger, but that was after they actually killed off a 5-on-3 where we had Travis Mitchell, Dylan Keffler, and Luke Rowe out there, and they did a pretty nice job. That felt like that kind of felt like the end of the game a little bit to me. I mean, you don't score on a 2-minute 5-on-3. That was pretty harmful for them. Jeremy Smith was awesome. He was the starting goalie today. He hadn't played a game in 2,000 days. Joey relayed over to me, which was pretty cool. And Dylan Keffler put it away on a nice wraparound to make it 4-0. And they just absolutely cruised today. But guys, I got to be honest. When they acquired Adam Beckman last year from the New Jersey Devils, the thing I remembered most about him was running into the referee. And to be honest, like my friend back at home showed me that clip, and we were just like, "How do you do that?" But then you watch him play hockey today, and there's a lot more to Adam Beckman's game to really love. I thought he was. I mean, guys, that was a little bit of an eye-opening performance to me. He was really dominant, I thought, every shift. And that goal he had, it was well-deserved. And he just looked like, I think it's fair to say him and a few others really stood out as the best players on the ice today.
Yeah, I mean, first when you talk about Beckman, that's been all season. Like he's really started to kick into high gear recently. His shot is unbelievable. He's been able to create 17 goals, 11 assists, and for 28 points, as Sam Resnick points out to me right here. He's got the stats on command. But when it comes to Adam Beckman and Liam Foudy, for me, some of the most valuable players in the American Hockey League are ones that have that kind of veteran to them, but they're not necessarily a veteran yet. If you don't know, there's a veteran rule where you can only have a certain amount in the lineup at a time. But both Foodie and Beckman both under that threshold. So they bring that veteran presence, but they don't count towards a veteran status player. So those guys are absolutely, huge for this team, and we've seen it already. When you go back and you talk about Maggio, it's huge. And when it comes to him, I was fortunate enough to talk to him earlier in the season. And, it wasn't that much earlier, like probably a month ago. And things were clicking. And when you hear him talk, you could tell that he's in the right headspace. He struggled a little bit. He's playing on the fourth line. And it's just, there's not really a shock that he's been able to come back and play the way that he has, just because you know that he's got the right head on his shoulders. And I think that's the biggest thing. Sometimes you hear players who struggle and then they can't really find it because they've never struggled before. And that's what Maggio said, in the interview, is that was the first time that he's ever struggled last season. And then coming into this season struggling, but still being able to find his way and play the way that he's been able to play has been fantastic. He was great tonight. He's been great all weekend. I believe he has 4 points on the weekend. The fourth line leading the way for the Bridgeport Islanders as well. Hunter Drew had 3 goals and 1 assist on the game Friday against Hartford, and then I believe had a nice goal tonight as well. So this is what happens when everything's clicking. Everybody kind of came back at once, and now we're kind of seeing this fantastic Bridgeport lineup that we haven't seen all season. But this has been tremendous, and those guys that you pointed out, and we talked about it before, Dalen Kiefler with that goal, Sam pointed it out with that second wraparound goal. The first one actually came when the Springfield netminder fell and he put in a goal. But I'll tell you, Dalen Kiefler earns those goals just the same. I don't care if it's an easy one. I don't care if it's a layup. He earns it in the defensive end, blocking shots, getting into the lanes and stuff like that. So when we talking about that massive 5-on-3. And yeah, I felt the same way as you. Once that 5-on-3 is over, that's it.
That was
it. That was your opportunity to get back in the game. And the fact that you weren't able to muster really anything because of just how well those guys got into the lanes and clogged traffic. And then right after, Adam Beckman buries a goal. That's game. I'm calling game on that one.
Yeah, that was that 5-on-3. I mean, I didn't feel like they had any grade A chances, even just a really great job from the unit defending there. You touched on Maggio a little bit, so I could be wrong, but when I was reading today's lineup, it still said is he still on the fourth line technically? Because I didn't feel like they were deployed as such. I felt like they were out there a lot today.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you play like that, you're gonna earn more minutes regardless of what line you're playing with. And it was funny because Maggio was on the fourth line at the beginning of the year as well, and he said he didn't look at it as being on the fourth line. He saw it as more of just make the most of your opportunities, and you'll continue to get more. And I think that's something that Rocky Thompson has preached, and he's stuck to his word. I mean, like you said, he's playing on the fourth line, and you didn't even know. You had no idea.
No idea.
You're out there all the time.
No, so, if you were if I didn't see the lines before the game, I'm not joking. I would have thought that was the first line. That's how much they were out there. So I guess to follow up on Beckman, Maggio, Kefler, even some more. I mean, we'll get to some of the veterans like Gauthier and Foodie, but I mean, who's let's say a couple injuries happen at the national level. What's your depth chart? Who's your order right now?
It's tough because I obviously want to give the nod to the prospects. I obviously want to see Maggio get up there. Jeffries has been injured, unfortunately, but I think as it stands right now, you got to give Beckman a nod as it goes right now, just because of how hot he's been. And I think the next one, probably Foodie. I love watching Joey Larson. He's a rookie, so he's another one that could be on that depth chart. But I think as it stands right now, if I am Darsh and I have to call up somebody for tomorrow, Adam Beckman probably the guy.
Yeah, it's interesting because there was a time this season where, as of late, Gauthier, Cizikas, and McLean, who we'll actually get to more in a little bit, because there's a player I want to discuss that we haven't even talked about yet. They've just been playing so well. And going into the season, let's face it, you would have thought that those spots were a little bit up for grabs. They've actually played the most minutes, but in terms of line combination, of any line combination on the Islanders this season. So they're clicking, but before they were clicking and Siplikov found himself scratched, you had Shabanov going through major point droughts. I was I always wanted Siplikov in the lineup. I was a big fan of his game, not looking too pretty. And, a lot of the times where I'd be like, why isn't anyone else being held accountable? Like, I feel like people would think I'm just trying to get Siplikov back in there, but in reality, I kind of wanted to see something from the AHL because I feel like they've been having a good season. Um, so it's good to know Beckman and Maggio are in that bucket. But one player, everyone knows I'm a fan of Isaiah George. Honestly, there were a few plays today where, he's just trying to go through the entire Thunderbirds team. And it's just like this guy, like he looks like a pro out there, in my opinion. Do you agree, disagree? Is that a crazy take? Am I just like, do I got the goggles on? I don't know. But I just thought he was a step above most players on the ice.
No, I definitely agree with you on that one. I think George is probably ready for that next step, and I think it's difficult because even though George is ready for that next step, I think the team, the Islanders, they did what was best for the team, and that was to patch that spot, not have that cycle anymore, and you can't fault Darsh for doing what's best for the team, and I completely agree and I completely understand it. But at the same time, right, I know a lot of people are like, more AHL games, that's great. It gets to a certain point where it has an adverse effect, right? You're developing poor habits, and just because you're playing against guys that are kind of a step below you, I don't think we're at that point just yet. But someone brought up Devon Tays, who played 130 AHL games, and I'm like, if George plays 130 AHL games, he will not be better than where he is probably right now, right?
Good
And
point.
I think, when you're playing in the NHL, right? If George went up, played and didn't perform well, at least he would have had a kind of a checklist of things to work on when he came back down. But I thought he played his game, and and it sucks because I tweeted and I was like, if he goes up and he plays his game, he's not coming back down. Unfortunately, he went up, played his game, and then also came back down. So
With a point too. I was like, it was that play I think it was the second period where he starts behind his net and he ends up literally going through almost the whole team before finally getting stopped at the last guy before he was going to get a shot off. And it's like, man, this guy just looks ready. And he made a few plays today. He obviously had an assist where I was just like, yeah, I feel like this kid's ready. I do understand where Darsh is coming from 100%. Like, your team is in third place. They're pushing for a playoff spot. It's been a revolving door all year with some of the guys we saw today. Mitchell. We didn't see Warren out there today, did we?
nope.
Yeah, he was I would say he was probably the second most impressive in terms of what he can bring, but I thought Mitchell was probably the most steady. McWard, I thought was okay today, but one guy I wanted to touch on. So Ethan Bear, I thought was really good. He quarterbacked the power play. I think he had the primary on Maggio's goal, correct?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Let's see.
Maggio's goal, that was so long ago.
No, it was
Yeah.
actually it was McWard who made that pass, but I don't know.
Okay.
I thought Bear was impressive moving the puck. He just looks like a leader out there. What do you guys think of him? Like, is he just like some really good AHL player, or do you think he has NHL capabilities in his bag?
I'll take this for a second, Kenny.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, we're only 10 games into the Luke Rowe. Sorry, I was looking at the comments. The Ethan Bear experience with Bridgeport, missed a lot of time. Took an injury in the preseason. I thought he looked really impressive in the preseason. I mean, this is exactly who they went to go out and get. When they signed him, they were signing, I believe he was an all-star last year, right, Kenny, with Hershey?
I'm playing like an all-star this year, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he's playing like an all-star this year. He does everything well at the AHL level. He plays big minutes for this team. I don't think he plays on the penalty kill to my knowledge, but he's playing first pairing power play time, right? I was really excited when they started using him with Isaiah George because they had gone to that in the preseason and they looked really good, but they've moved away from that. I believe they've got him with or no, they put George with Sean Day. With regards to if there's an NHL player there, there has been an NHL player there before. Ethan Bear played close to 220 something National Hockey League games. I think he's approaching 30 now, if I'm not mistaken. He's a veteran, right, Kenny? And
Yeah, he is.
I think he's more or less is what he is right now, and who he is very good. And he absolutely could come up and capably play in the National Hockey League in the third pairing role if push came to shove. Selfishly though, I love him down here in Bridgeport, and hope he stays down here and keeps racking up points for us.
Yeah, there's definitely some value in that. I mean, given last season, like it does help to have some talent down there that could be capable one day. And he is just getting his feet wet. But what does he have? 9 points in his first 10 games.
9 in his first 10. Had a goal against Lehigh Valley last night. Nasty wrist shot.
Yeah.
Nasty.
And then, of course, you have to value the veteran side. Like, this guy has played NHL games. He was at a point where everybody wants to go. And I mean, the defense had Sean Day, but when you have a guy that's like, played that many NHL games, I know the forwards speak so highly of Chris Terry and Matthew Highmore because they live the dream. They're still playing, and it's impressive to still be able to compete, especially with the veteran rule and so many players having to go overseas. The fact that you're still in the AHL at that point is huge, and I think it's a little difficult because I feel like Ethan Bear's game might have to be watered down a little bit if he comes up to the NHL level. Sometimes I wonder if he forgets that he's a defenseman, the way he jumps into these rushes, the way he kind of picks that puck up like a forward, and it works at the AHL level. But again, it's one of those things where, if you end up bringing him up, I don't know if you're going to get the full Ethan Bear Bridgeport effect,
Yeah, he sounds like someone Patrick Waugh would love, jumping in the rush, just flying around all over the ice. So two more guys I wanted to just touch on because they're veterans. They've actually spent some time in the NHL, whether it was short lived or for more than a cup of coffee, like Julien Gauthier was a few years ago. He actually there was one game where he scored 2 goals against the Capitals. It was like, in my mind, it's like the Julien Gauthier game. Foodie and Gauthier, like what have you guys seen from them this season? It's got to be tough. I mean, these guys have played in the NHL a good amount of games. It's just like they seem to have a good mindset down there. They were both effective. Foodie's been coming on recently. Look, I'm good with Foodie coming back to the NHL. I root for everyone in this organization, but I think Joey knows what I'm going to say. He cannot wear number 12 under any circumstances. That might be my biggest problem with Liam Foodie.
I mean, I was gonna let Joey take this one first, but yeah, you know what? Let's let Joey take this one first.
What about? Well, I mean, very practically, right? Foodie I think both of them are on AHL only contracts. So
Oh, okay.
No,
I think
both
no.
are
I
on
think
NHL. Both are on
no, hold on. I'm not gonna look this stupid. I think Foodie's on an AHL deal, Kenny.
No, I believe both are on NHL deals.
I
All
think
right,
they're on. I think one of them is on a 2-way contract. I think Gauthier
yeah,
re-signed a
he's on a
2-way deal
two-way.
this
Both of them are on
offseason.
two-way. I'm an idiot.
Both
Um,
are.
yeah, both are on two-way deals. I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, for both of these guys, these are both mid to late first round picks. I don't remember the exact years on both of them. But I can imagine it could be frustrating. You get drafted in the first round, you get up to the show, you think, I've made the dream. I'm going to do this is where I want to be, and then you find yourself back in the American Hockey League, and you can kind of feel stuck down here. But I think fortunately for Bridgeport, in a couple different ways, they've got the right people and they've got the right locker room where these guys recognize, hey, I'm not in the national, but I can do a lot of good down here. Both of these guys are incredible contributors right now for Bridgeport. Kind of no duh comment, but it is unbelievable how fast Liam Foodie is. His north and south speed is absolutely terrifying, and the same with Julien Gauthier as well. They rely on them big time for the offensive contribution, and then Foodie in particular, on a penalty killing role to some extent, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I'm completely second guessing everything I say now.
Might be mistaken there, my friend.
No, I feel like I've seen him on the penalty killer. Oh, Jesus, this is a yard sale, huh?
Buddy,
But
get back there.
yeah, I'm muting up, man. But I think to another extent too, with Gauthier, he's been really good. It's just been availability. I mean, tonight was his 8th game.
Are you waiting for me to second guess it?
No, I saw a funny comment. Go ahead, Kenny.
Let's see here. No, today was his seventh game of the season. Yeah, no, I mean, Den, you watched it today. I mean, you see Gauthier out there, like, he commands the attention. Like, that's
Yeah.
just how good he is. And then Liam Foudy, I joked about this last year, told Joey, I was like, man, if Liam Foudy could just score on like 1/10 of the opportunities that he gets, he's going to be in the NHL, and he's scoring on more than 1/10 of the opportunities that he's getting. Like, it really felt like he just was so snake bitten that he wasn't scoring on all these tremendous opportunities that he was creating. But this year, it's definitely been different. Yeah, and like Joey said, Gauthier has been, out of the lineup, and then he's a veteran, so when they rotate, he's another guy that has to be subbed out from time to time. So it's obviously difficult.
Awesome. And one more thing before we get to some comments. Don't want to keep you boys too long. This goaltender today, Jeremy Smith. I mean, we got to dive in on him a little bit. Will give us his story. And at the end of the game, for those who weren't watching, which this is we mainly talk the New York Islanders on here. His teammates were hugging him, and it was quite a cool scene over there in Bridgeport.
Yeah, I mean, first Craig asking me why he's homie in a suit and a tie. I don't know if this was for Sam or is this for me, but yeah, we're.
I think he's chirping Sam there, but I'm not. Sam's not even here anymore.
We're here, so gotta look professional. But yeah, when it comes to Jeremy Smith, what a crazy story this guy was. You read down the Chinese lineup, and then you get to the goalie, and it's Jeremy Smith, like known Chinese guy, Jeremy Smith. But no, yeah. So he was signed to a PTO, and he's backed up a ton of games, and then unfortunately the one game where he wasn't backing up was the one where they needed a backup. So it happened where Tikkanen played the first game, Hogberg played the second game, and then there was my guess was that they were going to go back to Tikkanen in the third game, but he played the first and the second game because Hogberg got pulled. So then they ended up putting Smith in there, who ends up getting a shutout. And again, it's just like Tikkanen's young, so having a guy who, again, what is he, 36 years old and still performing at this level, like just to bounce ideas off of and stuff like that, and different things. Having him and Hogberg is just it's huge. And now having three goalies who can win you games. Listen, like I don't want to throw shade on last season, but last year you didn't have one goalie that could win you games. Like, you went into every competition, you didn't know if your goalie was going to show up and make big saves. Now you have three guys who can come out here and win you games. Like tonight, Smith was fantastic. Like, I don't think I doubted him for a second. So.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I actually, so I've been on Long Island like literally 14 days in the last 6-7 months, and one of those 14 games I happened to be at UBS Arena, and I happened to watch 5 minutes of Marcus Hogberg. Obviously, the team in front of him was atrocious that day. And that's putting it lightly. So how has he looked down there? Has he had a good season? He had a lot of time in the NHL last year, obviously. So you just hope that he's finding his game down there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the start of the season was difficult. It was him and Parker Gahagan, and I don't think Gahagan really played all too well. So it puts a lot more pressure on the starting goalie. But then Tikkanen comes up and plays the way that he does and kind of, leads by example there. Tikkanen does. And it takes that pressure off. When you're playing, 2 of the 3 games, it's like, we got to win, because I don't know if we're going to win the one in the middle. So, no, Hogberg's been fantastic. And then ever since being sent down from the Islanders, he's been unreal. I think last night was difficult, but you're going to have difficult nights, like especially as a goalie. And I don't necessarily think that it was all his fault. I just think it was, some difficult bounces. But, no, he's been great. And he's a guy where it's like you really need 3 guys in the system to be able to pop up when you're a goalie. You never know when a goalie's going to go down. And I really do have confidence that Hogberg can go up and play and, be serviceable for the New York Islanders. So.
No, that's awesome. So we're going to get to some live comments here. I'm going to pick a few of my favorites. So I think this is from Mike C, who's fired up about today's game. I think when I said who's more NHL ready than others, I think he said not in order, but he had Larson, Maggio, Foudy, Beckman. We didn't touch on Larson too much during the stream so far. So if you have anything to add on him, because I don't think I obviously haven't watched him play all that much.
Yeah, well, Larson is a rookie this year. He played a few games at the end of last season, and he's been tremendous. Wicked shot, always shows up to play. He's 3rd in the league in first goals, which means 6 first goals. So, I really don't know how to explain that. It's a weird stat that the AHL has, but he's top 3 in the league, so I guess he's doing pretty well in that category. I know something that Rocky Thompson preached to him earlier in the year was getting to the net and being more or less of a one-dimensional player, because the Islanders have certainly had their fair share of just shooters, guys that have wicked shots, but if you can't really do anything else, then you're not going to be able to carve out a role in the NHL for too long. And Joey Larson's done just that. We've seen him get to the net, but he can score from all areas. I mean, you see him load up, like that shot is most likely going to the back of the net. So unfortunately, his contract does end at the end of this year, so he will be an RFA. That'll be something that I'm sure the Islanders are itching to get him back. But yeah, he's been wonderful. And an undrafted free agent, I think the Islanders truly hit. They had 2 guys, Gleb Remiev and Joey Larson, 2 guys that were undrafted that they ended up bringing in here. And Joey Larson was probably the best undrafted free agent of any team that anybody signed. So yeah, he's been tremendous.
I mean, we're talking about one of the best rookies in the AHL right now. I mean, just to bring the counting stats out, right? I mean, like he's 5th right now amongst rookies in the AHL with 14 goals, right? I mean, he's chasing guys like Quinn Hudson and Ilya Protas, and then he's top 10 in points, or top 12 in points. So, I mean, you're talking about really quite defined by former general manager Lou Lamoriello in Michigan State's Joey Larson.
Awesome. And here's the last comment we'll show. We didn't cover him all too much. Don't forget about Luke Rowe. Boys, what is standing out to you about Luke Rowe this season?
Man, I see it. Like, if there's one player that I can't speak highly enough about, it's Luke Rowe and the way that he's played this year. He's made it so you can't take him out of the lineup. That's how good he's been. Now he's on the penalty kill. You saw him in the 5-on-3. He's a selfless player. So many times players try to chip it around Rowe, and the fact that he's able to get his body out there and, take a hit to make a play and all that. He's also fantastic in the community. Like I said earlier, like the guy literally does everything. Like you go and you check the Instagram or the Twitter for the Bridgeport Islanders, and it's like, well, everybody players going to the school. Luke Rowe's there, So he's been incredible. Like, just an unbelievable teammate as well. You see him, and it's those 3 guys as well that we touched on earlier, Kiefer, Mitchell. Like, they're always in scrums. They're always fighting for each other. Like, that's a guy that you want on your side, truly. And I'm sure that the coaching staff loves having him, and I know the fans love having him. I know the staff loves him, and he's definitely a guy that I want to talk to down the line. We have another player interview set up for this week, but it's not him. But Luke Rowe, and I know a lot of people were like, oh, let's call him up. Joey, this one is actually signed to an AHL deal. Throwing shade at you.
Thank you.
Luke Rowe signed to an AHL deal, so he would need to be signed to an NHL contract to be able to be called up. I don't know what his NHL outlook looks like. I know everybody's worried about the NHL outlook, but the stuff that he brings to Bridgeport is nobody else gives it. Nobody else gives it like Luke Rowe.
Awesome. Well, listen, gentlemen, thank you for coming on. Guys, if you haven't seen them yet, on your Twitter, on YouTube, find them at Isles in the Sound. Their Twitters, their links are all in the YouTube description. And yeah, I can't thank you guys enough. I'm glad that this season's gone a little bit better than last year, and there's a lot of positives to talk about. So as we get closer to the AHL playoffs and in contention, I'll definitely have you guys on again. This was awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us, Jack.
Of course. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Okay. So you just got a good glimpse of Bridgeport there. And for the rest of the show, the second half, we're going to talk about the Islanders, a little bit from last night, still live. And unlike the happiness over in Bridgeport today following their 4-0 win, what a watch it really was. They were that game start to finish. It was a dominant performance. But yeah, the New York Islanders last night fell 4-3 to the Nashville Predators. I'll give a little brief game recap here and just share a few thoughts. Share some comments in the live if people are still tuned in and know that this is the Isles section of the pod. I expect many to watch this tomorrow as usual, but yeah. So last night, really an interesting game. first 10 minutes, you could feel that there was like some extra buzz in the building last night. Nashville Predators coming to town. You're off a 3-game winning streak. The trade acquisitions of Palat and Susie, the team just looked to be humming. And before the game, they found out that Jonathan Drouin was going to be scratched. A lot of people were speculating trade. A lot of people maybe hoping for trade, but it turned out that he was just ill, sick, out of the lineup. And they decided to put Maxime Shabanov with Duclair and Barzell on line one, and they kept the other lines the same. They rolled them out there. The first 10 minutes of the game, it just felt like it did cross my mind. It starts Matthew Barzell, a weird goal. He bats it in. D'Angelo gets it to Duclair. Barzell finishes it. And then a few minutes later, Schaefer scores to make it 2-0. There's something about when Schaefer scores at home there's just a different atmosphere in the building. It felt 9-0 against the Devils. Like a night like that did cross my mind. But it all changed. A penalty called to Adam Pelech put Nashville on the power play. Nashville scored right away. I mean, poor coverage on the PK unit. And I got to be honest, the penalty killing unit, we'll get into it a little bit more later, but I feel like the goaltending has really covered up some flaws within that system. And a couple minutes later, all of a sudden, Nashville ties it, and it's 2-2. And after being up 2-0, 10 minutes in, it's like, okay, well, we got a game on our hands here. The second period, Patrick Waugh said after the game that might have been the worst period they played all season. They just could not stop the pressure coming from Nashville. Their D were pinching. The Islanders couldn't break the puck out smoothly, and somehow they end up making it 3-2. The Islanders do off of a nice rush. JG Pageau, who's been pretty hot recently, gets his 12th of the season, assisted by Anders Lee and Simon Holmstrom, who continues some strong play over there. And Nashville ties it 3-3. And going into the third, felt like they were lucky to be tied 3-3. And the thing that is really crazy to me about this season, there's games where the Islanders give up 4 goals, 5 goals, and Sorokin is just still incredible in these games. There were like 40 shots on goal sometime early in the third last night for Nashville, and it was 3-3. With league average goaltending, I seriously think that game could have been like 5-3, 6-3 in the middle of the third period. He has been lights out, incredible this season, so none of this falls on him. And the third period goes on. The Islanders think they make it 4-3. Duclair is outside of the crease. Saros skates out of the crease, hits Duclair a little bit. Blocker. Patrick Waugh said it was an Oscar-like performance to avoid the goal from counting. The Islanders challenged it. I thought that it was a crazy challenge because when you just look at the optics, they can't not call that goaltender interference because the goalie gets hit into. He doesn't really have a chance to make the save. Whose fault it is that he doesn't have a chance to make said save is just, do we trust Toronto to bail us out, get it right? It's just, I don't know. The goalie interference stuff, I don't really want to focus on it too much. But yeah, it remained 3-3. I believe maybe the Islanders had a power play. No, they did, and it was disgraceful. I probably tried to forget about it. This was one of the worst power plays this season, and just drives me a little crazy at this point. You tried to do the separate units with putting Barzell away from Horvat and Schaefer, trying to mix things up. Okay, I always am going to respect if you're trying something. I'm not going to rip on you before you do it, trying to get it going a little bit. It's not working. It's completely failed, and it's got to go back to your most talented skaters alongside each other if they're going to try to improve this thing, because that was atrocious. There was a point where Ryan O'Reilly was literally just having his way in the zone. Ugly, ugly stuff. And then we get to later in the third period. Cole Smith and Pelech are jawing in front of the Islanders' net. They skate 4 aside for 2 minutes, and I think it was the second time in the period that they were 4-on-4. And something I noticed before is like, can we get Barzell and Horvat out there together? You know, the 2 best forwards on the team. And they come out of the TV timeout, and of course, it's Horvat, Heineman. I think Susi was on the blue line. It ended up getting a little mixed up with a line change. Barzal might have been out there for the game-winning goal, but Roman Yossi walks up, poor coverage on Heineman's part, and roofs it over Sorokin to make it 4-3 Nashville with a minute left. And just like that, the Islanders walk out pointless in a game where they were humming to start and the energy was in the building. That was one of the most heartbreaking losses, I would say, this season. And last night drove me a little bit crazy coaching wise because listen, like I'm reacting to these games, and individually you're going to sound like an overreactor when you are always, creating content on these games individually one by one. Doesn't mean I think these guys are shit at what they do. It's just simply pointing out things that I think need improvement, and the line combinations and the power play units need to switch. You cannot be successful with these power play units. We have enough proof. It was working for a little bit when Cal Ritchie was available, but he's been out hurt, and it's just not working. It's just not working. Barzal needs to be with Horvat, and that needs to change. Small observation. Thought Duclair was awesome last night, especially in the first period. Shabanov, I think it's probably done. It felt like one of those games where he had a turnover in the zone, led to pretty good scoring chance for Nashville. And I was thinking, if that puck went into the net, we were not seeing Shabanov for another couple of weeks, maybe not even until the Olympic break. Patrick Waugh was not going to put him back out there, especially when Drouin gets healthy. So the Shabanov stock is down. And yeah, I still like these trade acquisitions. I think Palat's put together a couple of really good games. He just struggles to find that scoring touch, which hopefully he'll find just a little bit. As he said, he's not here to score 50 goals. He's been productive since he came over. Overall, though, that's a tough loss. They have a couple of massive division games coming up. They're in the standings. They had a very good week and one that they absolutely needed. They trail Pittsburgh by 2 games, but Pittsburgh has 2 games in hand. Columbus, all of a sudden, with a 5-game winning streak, has a game in hand on the Islanders, but trail by 4 points. And the Islanders have that tiebreaker. The Capitals are 4 points behind them. The Islanders have a game in hand, and they will go to D.C. on Monday. And they're going to be playing Washington's third-string goalie. Hopefully they can find a way to win that game. And then they host the red-hot Pittsburgh Penguins, who've won 6 in a row. It's not a fluke, people. They are a good team. I don't know if it was by accident, but you'll see Parker Wotherspoon, first pairing defenseman, with Erik Karlsson lining up against the Isles on Monday and on Tuesday at UBS Arena. It's been pretty shocking how well he's played and what he's made of his NHL career. There was a time where he couldn't crack the Islanders lineup for Sam Bolduc, so pretty crazy to see that go full circle. Overall, though, thoughts from last night. Let's use Horvat and Barzal together on the 4-on-4. Let's use Schaefer, Barzal, and Horvat on the power play together. Simple adjustments. And let's get Drouin back in there, who here's what I'll say about Drouin. We don't need to go about the goals right now, but defensively, there's a massive difference between Shabanov and Drouin in there. Drouin has been good defensively at 5-on-5, something that I didn't expect him to be this season. And Shabanov is he's a shell of what we saw in October and November. I feel like he took a couple of hits at some point, and he has not been the same player. Schaefer, it's unbelievable what this kid's doing. He's got goals in back-to-back games, and there's just a different feel in the building when he is scoring these goals. There's not a better thing to watch as an Islanders fan than when Schaefer scores. He has electric celebrations, and you could tell the energy is just injected. If it wasn't for that Pelech penalty, I feel like that game goes a completely different way, but they got outplayed badly by a desperate Nashville team, and they'll need to match that on Monday in DC, or else it's been a crazy year. 10 games over 500, but you've got teams on your back that they're not going to go down quietly. So this won't be easy, but hopefully the Islanders can get their you-know-what together and, go into this Olympic break with their head high. They got Washington, Pittsburgh, and New Jersey, all teams right in the mix. The Devils are fading a little bit. Hasn't been so pretty for them. Not sure what the hell's going on there, but they'll be ready to go. And Palat will be ready to go as well, I'm sure. But we are a little bit low on comments, and that's really my rundown of last night's game. Just make a couple of adjustments here and there and simply be ready to play, because you can't be getting outshot by 20 shots, especially in your own building, no matter who you're playing. They made the Nashville Predators look like the current Colorado Avalanche. Not pretty stuff. And yeah, that really will do it. Have a great rest of your weekends, and maybe we'll do a stream tomorrow or Tuesday. I will update on that on Twitter and YouTube. Thank you for listening. And make sure to follow Isles and the Sound for Bridgeport updates, YouTube, Twitter. You know the deal. It's in the description. Thank you.